what do you want to do today? Eat some snacks and maybe let me kiss you finally? With my mouth and stuff?
We're about to learn that all of these people are tiny parts of Morty's consciousness. So I don't know what's sadder, that some small part of Morty wants to kiss himself or that another part is totally not into it.
You guys keep thinking I'm a religious leader. You're all my grandson, your name is Morty, you're stuck in a video game, and I'm here to get you out.
Look, this is a pretty tough sell, but Rick Roy's tactics certainly aren't doing him any favors. If he wants to make sure this doesn't look like an organized religion, why use a flyer that clearly gives the impression he's running for political office? Also, I think it's worth mentioning that we're 6 seasons in, and this show's still coming up with clever and intricate sci-fi concepts and introducing them clearly and efficiently, which is more than can be said for this sin removal, so just take it and let's move on.
The power went out, the game restarted, and your identity has been splintered into all the non-player characters.
Well, then that seems like a pretty big engineering flaw, no? I mean, when the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, it's not like the pirates eat the tourists. Is a joke I just totally made up myself.
Every single one of you is 1/5 billionth of Morty. All of you, collectively, are Morty.
But how are they even functioning if they're only 1/5 billionths of Morty's consciousness? I use at least 10% of my brain, and yesterday I totally forgot the word for that thing you do when you thrust your hips backwards and forwards and try to stay inside of a moving circular void. Hula hooping, for kids.
Do you understand time dilation? I'm losing a month a second out here.
So what happens to Roy while you're out here? Does he go on autopilot? Does he disappear? Because by the end of this conversation, you'll have been gone for almost 2 full years. And if you really want people to buy in, you should be shooting for 3 days away, max.
Just do a Die Hard.
What does that mean?
Sneak around, use air vents. You've never seen Die Hard?
Hey, doing a Die Hard's way more than just sneaking around and hiding in air vents. You could dedicate a whole episode to doing a Die Hard if you wanted to, but I suppose that might come off as an unimaginative excuse to include a lot of Die Hard references, so I guess you'd have to balance it with an overly metaphorical A-plot, questioning our perception of reality against our many internal narratives, and that just seems like a lot of mixed messages. Melting an entire stick of Morty butter to cook only 2 eggs. Designing a video game that's so detailed it simultaneously keeps track of 5 billion individual NPCs but won't render a simple license plate. But if this is a game about Roy, why is it currently focusing on her walking down the street? Shouldn't it be wherever Roy is right now? And why does it look like it's happening in real time? And yes, I know the game is broken, but you know what? You're broken. Okay, that was mean. I'm sorry. This job just gets to you sometimes. This Don't Touch Me game reminds me of a game I played this one time in an arcade called Flaming Finger. You basically had to draw your finger through a map and try to get to the end of the maze before the time ran out. No lie, I played that game so many times in a row it literally rubbed the skin off the end of my index finger, which of course meant I had no fingerprint and was then logically required to take up a life of crime. 20 years in prison and it was all the fault of Flaming Finger. Flaming Finger.
We exchange tokens for digital currency. We don't have a safe.
Correction. What you don't have is a head.
Discount Mr. Takagi makes a great point. What are the terrorists doing here if there's no currency to actually steal? What are they even heisting?
Hello, my name is Morty. I'm a 14-year-old boy in a video game.
Still better than most religious music, except for the Benedictine monks of Santo Domingo de Silos. Those dudes f***ing rule. Coming through the ceiling when you've already driven a tank through the fireplace. Stealing your logo from Star Trek. I'd say this was a nod to Space Force doing the same thing, but I'm not sure 1/5 billionths of Morty's brain would be quite that meta.
Sneak around, crawl in some vents, do a Die Hard.
Imitating Die Hard this well without ever having seen Die Hard.
Oh my god, it's disgusting, but it tastes good.
Foie gras.
Because they killed him, and it wasn't difficult.
Getting so angry you accidentally go full Gungan.
Every sentient civilization across the galaxy eventually develops the same myth.
Johns, Bobby, are we supposed to believe that despite every single sentient species having their own version of Die Hard, there isn't a single iteration that better suits this specific situation? Is the show seriously saying that no one in the galaxy has come up with Die Hard in an arcade? I'm amazed we haven't come up with Die Hard in an arcade.
The difference being that cultures like mine are aware of its importance.
Fine, but did they care enough to make 2 killer sequels and then wait over a decade to make another one about hackers and shit, and then wait a further 6 years to make another one that was basically nothing like the others, and essentially lost everything that was fun about the original? Did they? Did they live free until it was a good day to die hard? Did they?
Walkie-talkie Die Hard, motherfucker.
We all have that friend that mangles movie quotes. This sin is for them.
The world is united because the world is one 14-year-old boy.
United? The only thing that would unite a world of 14-year-old boys is the mutual agreement that no sock could be confidently used for its intended purpose.
I couldn't find it, so I'm standing in the general area with the microphone.
Is exactly how my sex tapes get made?
For Good Enough News, I'm Tony.
Good enough news position.
That will force the game to reset. But first, it'll kick us out, which Morty should survive. I mean, whatever amount of Morty we have on board.
This is the most yada pile of convenience in the episode. Not just that you can force a reset, but that the reset will kick out Morty and the reset won't harm Morty. It's almost like the creators of this game were in cahoots with the writers of Rick and Morty. Also, why does it only kick out the Morty minions that are on the ship? Why would a forced glitch have arbitrary plot tension rules?
A mom in a video game, occupied by a tiny fraction of yourself. A fraction of yourself which is now dead forever, and fractions add up.
Okay, so when a piece of Morty dies, they die for good? But Rick will eventually spend decades in here. So if those fractions add up, why isn't Rick in more of a hurry? If this simulation is anything like the real world, 60 million fractions of Morty are dying every year from natural causes, sloth attacks, and staple gun pranks. All of which means that Rick only has maybe 83 years before there are no fractions of Morty left to save. Unless, of course, the fractions that die are saved by the game and recycled into the babies that the other fractions of Morty are making. Putting aside the fact that we don't even have a word for what type of cest that is, it also means that Rick shouldn't be worrying about losing fractions of Morty at all. Also, for some inexplicable reason, at least 2 other fractions of Morty's subconscious believe they have monocular vision.
I'm going to wander the arcade unarmed, and when she comes across me, I'll pretend to be a hostage.
If John's has studied Die Hard so much, wouldn't it make more sense to improve upon the mistakes made in the movie rather than repeat them and fall for the same tricks? Hook, line, and sinker? Also, I'm tempted to sin Summer for ruining this fancy suit, but I'm sure John's has too.
You can't just keep yelling Die Hard!
I mean, you're basically doing the same thing, as is this episode. There's a lot of hypocrisy going around here. Don't throw bare feet in glass houses. Or whatever.
He spent 50 years!
50 years! It's what, a couple hours to him?
Well, since he said that every month is a second, 50 years would be 10 minutes, not 2 hours. And the President of the United States should know this. They don't just let any idiot have that job.
I can finally get out of these clothes. I don't have nearly enough pockets.
Complaining to a woman about how you don't have enough pockets.
But you have to tell us you love us. I mean, at this point, even if he said it, what's with the pause?
Rick is a dick for no reason, even though his dickishness will short-circuit his own plans cliché. Where the hell were these guys a few minutes ago? Let me guess, they're all sitting on a beach earning 20%?
We gotta help her.
You know what? Wherever she is, I'm sure she's doing fine without your help.
Oof, jinx anyone.
Trying to make me believe that Rick believes in me believing that Rick believes in jinxes.
You don't have to not do things that were done in Die Hard. You can shoot the glass. Shoot the glass!
Scene does not contain John saying this in their native tongue and then repeating it in English for clarity.
Wait,
Person on a spaceship, and then what?
Then we help your sister do her Die Hard.
But how in the hell are they able to hear this in real time? This game is happening so fast it should sound like this.
His name is Rick, and we have no way of knowing if your generation is actually part of Morty.
Do you really have a way of knowing anything? Like, for instance, how do you know that there aren't parts of Morty in things other than human NPCs? Maybe dogs have some Morty in them. Maybe rocks with googly eyes. I've seen everything everywhere all at once. I know how this shit works.
Okay, this is a little awkward, but the time dilation has given me a chance to reflect.
Sincere Rick is the least convincing Rick, but since we're in time dilation, I have to be careful how I do this, because I could end up skipping the entire rest of the season if I'm not careful, so skip? Well, still overshot it. Give me a second, I gotta adjust the time dilation offset manifold. Just tweak this here. Time dilation. Not my fault Rick has to get all sentimental and pretend like 5 full seasons of sociopathy don't exist. Just gonna move this wire here, and boom. Okay, this should jump us back to close to the right spot. And unskip.
You really are a good grandson. You know that? I'm proud of you, Morty.
All right, let's try this again. I'm not going to presume to know how this alien's anatomy works, but I would think it's safe to assume that this arm should at least be slightly less functional while carrying this laser hole around.
You left your book in the bathroom. I read it while I took a
Reading on the toilet, aka committing a hemorrhoidian slip, aka boarding the pulmonary embolism express.
He's fine. Got 'em all out. Every last piece.
Another open-ended Rick and Morty ending. I'm dubbing these co-text closings because the writers know they might want to pull stuff from the episode out again later, so they make sure to always leave a hanging thread.
Game over, man. It's game over. Maybe let me kiss you finally?
I'm fine. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
correction. What you don't have is a head.
I'm not entirely sure what you're suggesting.
I'm entirely sure you're entirely sure what I'm suggesting.
I'm a 14-year-old boy in a video game!
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah, look.
He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
Oh, walkie-talkie.
I'm walkie-talkie. Are you walkie-talkie?
Instead of handing me an unloaded gun, she'll hand me a...
Get the kayak or the buckets! put our guns down and let's settle this with a conversation.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.